Hey, what's up, y'all, and welcome to another edition of the Take One SpoilerCast. As usual, I have to say this if the name SpoilerCast didn't specify it enough. Now, I will be talking about the movie Alien Covenant. Now, if you haven't seen this movie, this is a spoiler review. So if you haven't seen it, go check out my non-spoiler review, which is up on my channel. The link is in the description below before you even check out this one. And even though you check that one out, see the movie. See the movie, then come back and check this spoiler review out. If you have seen it, continue listening. Or if you haven't seen it and you just don't care about spoilers at all, you just want to listen to somebody talk about spoilers of this movie, hell, go ahead and keep listening. You know, it's whatever. I'm forewarning you. Spoilers galore will be given out on this spoiler-filled review of the movie Alien Covenant, which is kind of like Annabelle creation, but not in a sense. It's a sequel to the prequel. So yeah, that one was easier to say rather than trying to think too hard on it. But in any case, I will be giving out spoilers past this point. So here we go. So one of the things that I said in my non-spoiler review, I guess you could feel kind of is a spoiler, but kind of not. James Franco. James Franco is in this movie barely. And I mean barely. So I heard that he was in this movie, but as I'm seeing the trailers, I'm like, he's not in the trailers. And I see why. Because he's only literally in one scene in this movie. And in this one scene, he's on the video with like the main character. And it's basically just because he dies at the beginning. The ship is having trouble, and so one of the pods gets stuck, and then he catches on fire inside the pod, and that's basically his character. Just the beginning and end of his character. It's like, why? I don't understand. Like, that was one thing that stood out to me. I didn't understand why they would have a big name like, James Franco. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not like a name like The Rock or anything like that, but he is a known name to where, people know who he is. Pineapple Express or whatever movie, Why Him, which I do got a review on that. Check it out on my channel. But in any case, it's like, he is a known name. I can see them getting a no-name person and just, put him in that scene. Then, it's like nobody would care or, bat an eye at it or say anything about it. But you have a person like James Franco. You put him in this movie. He is a character, but yet he's not really in the movie. He's in the video, and he dies. His character dies in the fire, literally in the first scene that you see him in. So I don't know. It's kind of crazy. Like, I don't understand the logic behind that. Maybe they had like a bigger role for him, and then they just reduced it down to that. Maybe they didn't have any like room or need for him to be in the rest. I don't know. It was kind of weird. Why would you have a name like that up in there? I mean, I ain't gonna say it's like having like The Rock or Denzel or somebody in that role and just not using them at all, rather than just a playback of a old video. But I mean, but still, it kind of threw me off. It's like, why? Like, what was the logic behind that? But in any case, just to get that out the way, I wanted to talk more about David, his character. If you've seen Prometheus, you know that his character survived with the head or whatever and was held by, God damn it. These names escape me. Maybe I should have wrote down the names. Elizabeth. There we go. Elizabeth. His head was survived by Elizabeth, which basically, as we saw in this movie, that she put him together. Or, yeah, they set up in this movie, but then they had a featurette before the movie came out, basically describing what happened. And so, it showed that she put him back together. I don't know where she got the body from, but she ended up giving him the body or whatever, and putting him back together and treated him nice and all that stuff. Yeah, she was caring about him, and it shows where he is. I want to say mentally, because he's an android. So I mean, I guess technologically, mentally, I don't know how you would basically what would be the main, but I'm gonna just say mentally because I can't think of a word to kind of go with it. But I mean, he can think, so I guess you could say mentally. He's in the sense of where it's like as we got from like one of the first scenes, or the first scene of this movie, was that David is questioning why is he below a being that is, I guess he feel is inferior to him. If he is to the point where he can understand logic and he has no emotions, nothing driving him back like a human does, and that he doesn't age, that he just basically gets better. Now, I ain't gonna say gets better, but he can live for a very long time, that he's not subjected to like how humans is. I'm sorry, I have to move around. That he's not subjected to what humans are as far as aging and breaking apart and dying after a while. That he can last longer, like hundreds of years, as opposed to humans can barely last 100 years. You might, of course, you're gonna have like maybe a handful, maybe not, maybe more. I don't know how many people live to see 100 every single year, but I mean, there is quite a few people, but not every single person is going to live to see 100, even like live to see 50, But in any case, like, he feels like he is basically a god because he doesn't need food. He doesn't need none of that. He doesn't die, essentially. He lives forever. And so he feels like, why is he put below us? So it's him. This movie, I guess you could say, is essentially him basically on the path of trying to become a god, trying to play God, to destroy, create, and everything else. It's kind of like what I got from it. I mean, people might get another, basically they might get something else from it, but that's just essentially what I got from it. And I love just how they explore his mind, his intellect, and what he believes to be right, what he believes to be true. He might go around about it like all evil and this and that, or just doing certain things for scientific purpose, and just it goes back to Prometheus of how he feels like, what if what he had asked old boy of why did they create him, and he said because we can. And he's like, how would you feel if the engineers or your creators basically said that was the reason why they created you? So it's kind of like he's taking that aspect and using it, basically applying it to what he does, is that he's creating these like aliens and stuff like that. He created the xenomorphs at this point because he can, because he's curious, because he's playing around with that. He's creating these new creatures, and he's essentially, like I said, he's playing God. He's trying to show that he is a God creature, and that's all basically shown by him just, well, I say, killing off a lot of the species of that planet. Now, this is, I guess you could say, one city, so we don't know how the rest of the planet is. There could be a lot more of these alien creatures around this planet, which I'm guessing it probably is, which is another like freaking, I guess you can say, gripe or negative about this movie, which I think I should get on a little bit later. But it just shows that, like, I love how they just explore him, and he's an android, but he has a lot more character development in this movie, and I really liked that about it. I really did, and I love how they just explore more and just show what happened in between Prometheus and this movie, because it's a good length amount of time between these movies. I think it was like 10 years or something like that. So you have a good length between Prometheus and Covenant. So I love how they get into like the development of where David is as far as mentally and what he's been up to within that amount of time. And just getting on beyond that, it shows what happened to Elizabeth. It shows what happens to her, like death, how she died and stuff like that. We all find out that David killed her, and just basically in the midst of science. But he didn't do it in the sense of just being cruel and this and that. But he did it in the sense of, he wanted to further his scientific studies. But yet at the same time, it wasn't like, I guess, I wouldn't even say it was a mercy kill, but he did it out of respect. I guess that's the wrong way to categorize it. He did it in respect. Or how can I put it? It's like he didn't do it as in like, it was just like how he's killing everybody else, like he didn't care for them. It's like he cared for her. But yet, he wanted to do what he wanted to do. He knew that he needed to kill her in order to further his studies. So that's basically what he did. And so it was like he still cared for her. He still cares for her now. And because she showed him the kindness that no one else showed him. But yet, I guess he felt like he had to kill her. And I like how they explained that. But I feel like they should have had her in this movie. But I guess, I don't know. I guess she had to play that role of just, maybe she had to do this. But I felt like they could have had her in this movie a little bit more. But, and one of the things that I said in my non-spoiler was that I love the lore, what they were trying to get more into, and how he was studying the people of this planet, the civilizations and stuff like that. I love how they was like getting more into it, and I was really curious. Like that really intrigued me because I wanted to know more about these engineers, I guess you could call them. And I didn't like how David, as soon as he got to the planet, just murdered all of them. I didn't like that before because of the simple fact that I wanted to know more about him. Because, like, that's literally what the other movie was about, was us getting to know, us wanting to know everything about these engineers. Now, I don't know if there's going to be a third one. I mean, he sure has plans to make a third one. I believe he has. Because, like, in the beginning, Ridley Scott had plans to make 3 movies. So I was expecting Prometheus, and then Prometheus 2 and Prometheus 3. Which, of course, that's not the names of them. But, he had a trilogy in mind. And so, in recent, before this movie came out, he had in mind, and I think after this movie came out, he had in mind 2 more movies to come out. So, it's one more than what he originally had planned. So I'm just like, okay, there are going to be unanswered questions in Prometheus, so I was accepting that. And I felt like going into this movie, there's going to be unanswered questions in this movie. But it's like, I kind of wanted to know, like, about these engineers. I kind of wanted to know about these people. I was really, after seeing Prometheus, I was disappointed with that movie. But yet, I was like, okay, but even just the unanswered questions and them going to the planet of the engineers, I was like, yo. So this put me in a mind frame of, I can't wait to this next film because we're going to get to see the engineers. We're going to get to go to their planet. We're going to get to know the reason why, why they created life on Earth and all this stuff. We're going to get to know these answers. And then getting to this movie, he wipes them out. So it's like, we waited. We sat through Prometheus, wanting to know these answers. Waited for like a few years to get to this movie to figure out why. And then we get to this movie and then he kills all of them. And we still don't even know the answer. Maybe it was as simple as because they can or this and that. But I mean, maybe I missed something. Maybe there was a reason, but it's like to me, it wasn't really like put as to where it's like we know the reason why. And I felt like that was kind of like disappointing because I really wanted to know. I felt like that was more like the species of the engineers were more interesting than what Ridley Scott did in this movie. And I really wanted to know that. And like that what made me really disappointed about this movie was that it was just okay. Fuck. Yeah. Well, we're not gonna get to know that. But even just, I guess the time with him studying the ship and stuff like that, maybe he found out something. Maybe it was something that David found out about the engineers, and that's probably the reason why he killed them, but we don't know. We really don't know. So if Ridley Scott ends up making a third film, maybe that will be answered. Hopefully, more of the answers that was like not answered in Prometheus in this movie can be answered in the third film. But it was like that just really disappointed me. Like I really wanted to know more about these engineers. And I mean, I'm gonna probably rewatch this movie, but just to maybe if I can find out more clues or this and that. But that one thing that really disappointed me about this. One of the other things, let me look at this. And getting to basically more about it, because I know I mentioned it in the non-spoiler reviews about the aliens. These aliens, the xenomorphs, were fan service. We could have completely did without them. I know a lot of people probably was like, "Yo, I like that. I like that." But to me, it was more fan service. It was kind of like having Wolverine in the latest X-Men film, the X-Men Apocalypse. It was just fan service, and it was really blatant because, like I said in my initial review, was that Ridley Scott could not balance in this movie between being intellectual and it being a horror film. This is not one of those type of films where you can go into it, throw your brain out the window, and just enjoy just it being scary and this and that. This is a movie where it forced you to think about what was being said, about the conversations, dialogue, and all this stuff throughout the film. So you could not go into this movie really enjoying it mindless, as a mindless just like horror film. You had to go in there and it forced you to think. And I'm like, what was he going for? It just seemed like he wanted to do the intellectual part, because that's what basically Prometheus was. It was an intellectual movie. Didn't have the aliens until the last end scene. I believe that even that was fan service. Even that was fan service. But it was like he wanted the intellectual, the sophistication of just the dialogue. He wanted this movie to be a smart film, at the same time being a horror film, like Prometheus was. Prometheus was an intellectual film. It was very intelligent, of just like the points that they were getting in with life and why are we here, our purpose, who created us, and stuff like that. It was cool. And then the thing that I did like about Prometheus is that it was its own horror film. It did have elements of Alien, certain, things of like the vials, the vases that was up in like the place. And it kind of was similar to the face huggers. And I like that. I mean, it just had kind of like I ain't gonna say a callback, but it was reminiscent. It put you in the mind frame of Alien. But that's all it was, just to let you know that it is a part of the universe. But as far as it was his own film. That's the one thing I can praise about Prometheus. Even though I didn't like it like a lot of other people, Prometheus was his own film. And that's what I like that Ridley Scott did with that film. And I thought this film was going to be like that, but it was another alien film. If you wanted to make an alien film, go make an alien film. Don't make a film that you said in the beginning was going to be far removed from Alien, but still connecting to the Alien universe. And basically go back on your word, putting the fan service at the end of Prometheus, and then making all the aliens in this movie fan service. Because to me, it was just, I don't know, it would have been better had it been more intellectual, I feel like he wanted it to be, like how this movie started off and how the first movie was. And it was just, that was really disappointing. Even just like the scene where they had the door where the man he had breathed in some of the stuff, and he was up in the ER room, or I don't know what you like, the nurse room. Yeah, you know what I mean. You seen the movie, damn it. And then the thing started breaking out his bag, and then the girl, she wants to get up out of there, and then the other girl won't let her out. It's like, why won't you let her out? Like, that makes no sense. Like, why won't you let her out? You can easily open the door, let her out, and then close it back. But yet you want to freaking lock her up in there. Like, she's not infected, as you can see. The guy is. Let her out. Why are you keeping her in there? Because what? You might think that she's infected because she was in here because she was in there with him. You were in there too, so you know that she's not infected. Like, it was just that scene. I didn't like. It was just that whole scene could have been prevented, and then the thing ended up getting out anyway. So it was just, oh yeah, that was just crazy. And then, like I said, there was really no character development with a lot of the characters. So the deaths were meaningless. It's like you just. They basically was there to just die. Like, certain people in other movies is if they don't really have a backstory, they just there to die. And that's basically was the whole crew. So when things happen, it's like, okay, yeah, it was just fun to watch them die, but you really didn't have no emotional attachment to a lot of these characters. A lot of the scenes just, it was just, I was just disappointed with that. As well as, but I like the connection that they had. I'm skipping from scene to scene, as you can tell. I'm skipping, but I did like how they had the connection between David and what was the other android name that was just like him? Walter. There we go. It almost escaped me. I don't know why I was looking for Edward or something like that. I don't have Twilight on the mind, but yeah, it was just, I loved how they had the connection between them two. I'm gonna just get on that quick. I love how they got on that, how they had the connection between them, and how they had the different of why Walter was vastly different than what God damn it, and I forget David. Yeah, I forgot one person's name, and then I remember it, but then I forgot the other person's name that I've been saying all throughout this review. But yeah, it's like how they have Walter so vastly different from what David is, and they explain it why. And they knew that giving freedom to David was a flaw. And that's why. So I love how they did that. Answered the question. Actually answered a question that we really didn't have the answer to, but probably would have had the answer after seeing this or whatever. But I kind of like that aspect of it. She knew it was David. What was that referring to? I'm looking at my notes and I don't get what the hell I was trying to write. That's the problem with writing down movie notes and then doing a movie review months after I've seen it, is that I'm not fresh with what the hell I was writing down. But I mean, yeah. And then you get to the end scene of where he basically all the Covenant crew is basically dead, I guess you could say, in a sense. And he takes over the ranks and he tries to start it again. They're gonna get to the new planet, and then he's gonna murder everybody on that ship, to basically further his studies of the creature that he's created, to see how the evolution of it furthers. So I mean, I guess they ended off on a note, but thing is, it was predictable going to that scene. It was predictable because you kind of knew that that wasn't Walter on the ship. You knew that it was David. Now it has a new question to arise. Is like, why did David switch with him? Did he get through to David? Did he get through to Walter? Did David kill Walter? But it was like they ended off on this talk, or David trying to persuade him, and then all of a sudden it cut from that, go to them, and then Walter comes back on the ship and all this stuff, and it's like that was predictable. And I'm like, that ain't Walter, that's David, because it didn't show David dying. It didn't show what happened after the conflict with him and Walter. It didn't show that, so it was like, well, they're not gonna show it. Man, that's David. So the question arises, like, what happened? Like, what did David what did he say to him to get him to trade places? Like, or just what happened? So hopefully we get a third movie to get these answers, answers that we want, to get these questions answered. But I really would want to know more about the engineers. That's the one thing. I hope they don't skip over it. I hope they don't just be like, oh, well, we're going on with something new, and we don't get to know more about the engineers. Like, I really would want to know about the engineers. I don't know. Like, I mean, there's theories online that I saw on YouTube as to why these engineers in this movie look vastly different from the engineers in the first movie of Prometheus or whatever. And it was actually pretty interesting. So, if I could find it, I'll probably send a link down in the description of this video or whatnot. But yeah, I mean, it was just, I don't know. It's just, I want to learn more about the lore of these engineers. I mean, more than likely that's not what they're actually called, but that's just what they're referred to from like the characters of this movie. But it is what it is. And I believe that that's it that I have to say about this movie. Also, yeah, I like how they killed the alien at the end. I love that. I liked it. Yeah, I think that was it. Oh yeah. No, also, matter of fact, yeah. Okay, I almost forgot. Getting back to just the aliens. I really am kind of like questioning, like, was that little area where David unleashed the disease or plague or this whatever on the engineers, was that all the engineers that live on that planet, or was it more? Did it stretch around the whole planet, or was it just a little area and there's more engineers on there? Because you would think that there would be more engineers throughout the whole planet, that it's not just that city that they were in. So it was just, I don't know, like that's what gets me more interested in just learning more about them. Like, it didn't make any sense, it really didn't. Like, the whole scene with just the aliens and stuff like that, you would think, because he murdered like probably hundreds to thousands of these engineers, that there would be more aliens. But yet when they got attacked in the field, there was only like maybe about 2, 3, 4 of them or whatever. And it wasn't that many aliens or xenomorphs throughout this whole film. So it was like, what happened to the other ones? Did they go around the planet? Did they travel? I mean, what happened? Like, that was a part of the movie that didn't make any sense to me. It didn't make it clear that, was it just that these engineers occupy the whole planet they were on? Was it just that little city that they were in? Did all of them get wiped off the planet? If there are more, did the aliens spread out throughout the whole planet? It didn't really make sense, and that's why I think Ridley Scott made a major flaw in this movie. I ain't gonna say plot hole, but yeah, I guess you could call it like a major plot hole. Like, was it throughout the whole film, or was it just, not throughout the whole film, but was it throughout the whole planet, or just that little area? Is there more engineers on this planet? Because it made it seem like the planet was desolate, like there was nothing more to this planet, but yet, it kind of questions just kind of arises. So I don't know. But it is what it is. Maybe that will be answered. Maybe somebody has a theory. Maybe it was mentioned up in the movie that I didn't like hear. I ain't gonna say forgot, but I didn't hear or whatever. Maybe somebody has a theory out there on YouTube. I don't know. Maybe if they do, put the link down in the comment section below. I'll go check it out or whatever if they have it on YouTube or whatnot, or even just on the internet. Put it down in the comment section below. I'll check it out. But I mean, yeah, that was just a big question, a big plot hole, I guess you could say. It's just, I don't know. It is whatever. But yeah, and that's all I really had to say. This spoiler cast went on a little bit longer than what I wanted it to, but I had a lot to say about this movie. And that wraps it up. So yeah, everything is in the description below, from social media to my other stuff. Keep a lookout for more movie reviews, more spoiler casts, more podcasts, more just other videos I'm gonna have to do. I'm gonna be putting out music reviews, show reviews, and all that good stuff. And I will catch you guys later. Like this video, subscribe, turn on notifications, all that good stuff. And I will catch you guys next time on the next SpoilerCast. Peace.